We see cowboy tech Jesus coming in hot. Yeah, 100%. They had 20 people already. Surely one of them could open Excel. Well, 2 did. One person that they hired in to do merch stuff and then just kind of like slowly phased them out for a reason I don't understand because they were good. And then one of the talent managers as well. The 2 of them sat there and opened Excel and were working out some like merch stuff and trying to fix all that up. And then as they were going through it, one of them identified a discrepancy of many hundreds of thousands of dollars many months ago and flagged it. And they were like, hey, there's some discrepancy here. And they were given some sort of, you know, it wasn't like they looked at it and went like, oh, this money's missing immediately because they didn't have all the info on the financials, right? So they were like, oh, this must be somewhere or something. And that data was taken and then, you know, they were just like, yeah, there's some reason for this or something. And then it was brushed off. And that's when that person was like, oh, this could be something that only they know on their end. And like, there is a reason for this, or maybe there's not a reason for this. Not a good one. You know, so there were some competent people trying to do things, but everyone was just kind of blocked from cross-referencing information. Hundreds of thousands of missing dollars is fine. Yeah, it was like 800 that they flagged at the time too. And they were just like, hey, there's this discrepancy in the math. There's somewhere where this information is actually publicly visible, by the way. So I'm not saying that I can't say for the record, but yeah, they pointed out this, and when they pointed it out, it was like something that they flagged that this money could be saved or found through fixing something, and then it was just kind of ignored. So yeah, crazy. But having like one of your own good employees point out that something's like fucked up and just being like, hey, I'm sure there's a reason for this, but like, can you let me know what it is? And they're like, yeah, we'll check into it. And then just nothing, you know, crazy. I wish I knew that part. I didn't know that at the time. That was something I learned way later. I left after I left.
The board has reviewed the board for corruption and have found none.
Yeah. How many people were in on it? I wish I knew. That's the thing, is I can't really tell right now. I can make a lot of guesses, but there's no way to know. There's some people where I'm like, there's no way these people aren't complicit, but I can't point a finger publicly, especially. Like, I'm not going to do that without evidence, or at least knowing like full on there's just 100% no way. But I'm like 99% sure in a lot of things, so I'm just not going to touch it. Not going to touch it. That's stuff that gets handled on the back end in legal proceedings, or in some ways that's not always my thing to do. It's someone else's specifically, or, you know. But yeah, that's why in my reply to Gunrun when he posted on the VShojo Twitter, like an apology, I specifically tried to highlight, he said he takes full responsibility, which I felt like was him trying to put himself in front of it and just scapegoat. Not that he's not at fault in some ways, absolutely, but I think that was a really clever way to have only him draw the fire. Right? Whereas things like that don't happen unless it's like a real team effort, is how I feel. Now, a matter of who exactly knew and did what, that's a whole can of worms that you won't know unless you like audit stuff, you know? But yeah, there are definitely a lot more people that were in the know of some things. I think some people, their worst crime was just being negligent, which is terrible, but not the same as like an actively malicious, you know, kind of thing. Because a lot of people would not be aware of how bad it was for the talents. But there are also people who I think absolutely knew. There are people who are also like just checked out, and I just don't think they were privy to certain info. But I think nearly everyone's at fault of seeing issues and not going, what the f is this? Instead just going like, oh, I'll just half believe what they say and wait for more info. Like, how long can you do that? You know, and the only reason the talents made a stink was because they were the ones who were not going to get paid, right? But everyone else who did get paid, and if they didn't explicitly know that other talent were not getting paid, like they would just kind of just be like, oh, that thing looks weird, but everything seems fine. There's no more embossing say. So they were like both complicit in the negligence and tricked. You know what I mean? That's why it's so hard to point fingers at people, because I think it's more complex than just some people being at fault or not, right? It's a group effort, and sometimes you take some part in it, but not really knowing to what extent you take part in it, right? So I'm not a big fan of pointing at people that like maybe were kind of involved, maybe not, and just being like, you did this, you know? I don't really like doing that to all of them. Some do deserve it, some don't.